Hey, so I'm making some butter today. I've got 2 quarts of heavy cream. It's raw cream from our Jersey. I collected it over the last maybe 4 days. So about a cup of cream per half-gallon container jar. So I have 2 quarts, so that's a half-gallon of cream today. I skim all the cream off. Some people will just do the heaviest cream on the top. I'm not super picky about it, so there's a little cream left. That doesn't bother me. So I've got it in the KitchenAid now. I have this nice little cover on here that works really good. And then I've got the whisk attachment on. And this cover just kind of keeps the milk and buttermilk and whatever from splattering everywhere. Once it starts to separate out from the fat and the buttermilk, it gets really splattery because the big globs of butter start to like slap around in the bowl and splash the buttermilk everywhere. The way it works is you just take heavy cream and you just beat it either with, some people use a paddle, some people use a whisk, you can use a KitchenAid mixer, you can use a blender, you can use a food processor, you can use lots of different things. I use the KitchenAid because it's what I have, and I like it. I can do about a half-gallon of cream anymore, and it's gonna make a huge mess. And I wait till I have 2 quarts just because that's what makes the most sense for me efficiency wise. I don't really want to make like a 1 stick of butter at a time. I want to make at least 2 sticks, which I usually get 1 stick per pint, so per 2 cups. So this is 8 cups of cream, so I should get about 4 sticks from that. So 2 sticks is a pound. No, 2 sticks doesn't have a pound, so 4 sticks should be a pound. Math is hard, especially when there's kids under your feet. Not right now, May. I'm making butter. So I'm gonna turn the mixer on. You're gonna take your heavy cream and you're just gonna whisk it. You can put it in a jar and shake it up. You can whatever, but it's gonna basically turn it into whipped cream. And then you want to take it past whipped cream until the fat starts to stick together, and then that's when you start to get butter and buttermilk. So I'm just gonna turn this on to. You want to be pretty high, at least at like medium. So it goes up to speed of 10. So I'm gonna put it at about a 5. It's cold. This cream is cold. It depends on where the cow is in her lactation on if it needs to be room temp or if your cream needs to be refrigerated. I do mine cold just because if I set it on the counter to do it some other time, by the time it's room temp, it'll have been there for like 3 days and I'll have forgotten about it by then. So I just do it when it's cold, when I'm thinking about it. You can leave it out and let it clabber and kind of culture itself if you want. I don't usually, just because usually when I need butter, I need it right then. So I am going to get this going, and then I will show you what it looks like when it starts to whip, and then what it looks like when it is actually turned into butter. I'm making circles first, and then squishing all of them down. What? I'm doing this first and then squishing them all down, and then it's going to take forever. you get to that point where it's starting to separate a little bit, I'll take a spatula and scrape the sides down, because there's some whipped cream on the sides that I want to make sure gets incorporated. So it's a little tricky with the cover on, but you just have to lift it up. And then it's very like, it very much holds its shape. It's not liquidy, it's very much whipped cream at this point. So I'm just scraping it down and getting it back in there. And I'm going to save this spatula to use in just a bit. And I'm going to start it back so it can start to separate. So it's starting to splatter, but you can see we're not quite there yet. We're not getting the separation, but you'll know it's getting close when you start to have lots of splattering. You can see we have a bunch of tiny little pieces of butter. I'm just gonna let it go for like another 30 seconds just to help those clump together a little bit. You can see it's made a giant mess. Okay. Okay, so we've got our butter made. Well, it's mostly butter. It's still in there with our buttermilk. So I'm gonna knock all of that butter out of my lid. A big tip that I've been trying recently is a lot of times I'll make my butter and then, you know, you put your hand in there, ball it up, and just strain it out. Well, instead of doing that, what I've started doing is straining out some of the liquid and leaving it in these tiny, tiny little clumps, because it makes it so much easier to rinse when it's this in these tiny little pieces. And that way, when your butter is sitting in the fridge, it has a lot less of the buttermilk. So I was having a lot of issues getting all the buttermilk out. So I found if I leave it in these tiny little granules and I rinse it before I squish it into a big ball, then it seems to do a lot better and last a lot longer, and I don't have issues with the buttermilk staying in there and making it go rancid. Which I keep mine in the fridge anyway, and if I have extra I put it in the freezer, and then if I know I'm going to use a bunch of that butter that day, then I put it out on the counter so it can be soft. I found that the raw milk butter, the cream that we get from our cow, seems to spread easier even when it's cold from the fridge. So I don't really need to leave it out for it to get room temp to be spreadable, because it's pretty spreadable anyway. So I'll show you how I rinse and strain it. I forgot to catch the buttermilk. Oh. Yeah, I just stir it around just to get all of the buttermilk rinsed off with the ice water. I try not to squish it too much because I really want it to stay in those little pieces so I can get between all of them. And I feel like I find I have to squish out a lot less when I do ball it up if I leave it in these little tiny pieces before I squish it, or before I rinse it. Okay, you can get some water. Get some water from the fridge. Yeah. you're just gonna rinse it until the water comes clear. So it's pretty clear now. So I'm gonna start squishing and squeezing out all of the water. So now I'm going to start squishing it together. It's already kind of in a ball, but I'm going to put it in even more of a ball shape. I just washed my hands. And you want to make sure your hands are nice and cold, so you don't want to wash them with hot water. You want to kind of wash them like you normally would, and then just rinse them with some cool water. Just get them as cold as you can. So I'm going to squish this into a ball. And then as I squeeze, water is coming out. And we want to get all of the water out so it can stay nice and moisture free and hopefully not gonna wash it. So I'm just squishing it like Play-Doh. This part is really satisfying. So you can see there's just like water dripping out the whole time I do it, and that's gonna take any last tiny little bit of buttermilk with it. It's gonna get all the moisture out. And the warmth of my hands is going to help smush it, but we don't want it too warm or it's just going to start to melt.
That cheese.
Butter. No ma'am. No ma'am. Leave it there.
Mom, that is purple.
Yeah. Okay, so now I have a scale over here so I can measure how much butter I got so I know how to portion it out. So I'm going to zero out my scale. I'm going to add my butter, and that was 12.2 ounces. Yeah, 12.2 ounces. So that was, let's see, 4 ounces of stick of butter. So I got 3 sticks essentially. I did have a little less than each quart, so that makes sense. So we got a little over 3 sticks. So now what I'll do is I'll just kind of mash this out to be flat, so I know when I cut this to cut it into 3, and that will be the same as 3 sticks. So each will be a half cup, 4 ounces of butter. So that'll be, so when I'm looking at, you can't eat it yet. So that way when I am doing a recipe and it says like 1 stick of butter or 3 tablespoons or whatever, I know that I've got my sticks portioned out correctly, and each stick should give me 8 tablespoons. So now it's nice and flat. I'm gonna stick it in the freezer so it can get really, really cold so I can cut it and use it. I've also put it in jars before. The jars, usually I'll use those for like pancakes or something where I don't really have to measure it out, or if I'm just gonna put it on toast, I can leave that jar at room temperature and then just scoop it out and spread it on there. Like I said, this butter is super spreadable, so it just is really easy if I need to use it on something that doesn't require a specific amount. So I just scoop it out, smear it on where it needs to go, and we're good. But I like to usually maybe like 3/4 of the time I'll do it in a dish like this where it's nice and flat and I can cut it into sticks. So right now I'm just cutting the butter into 3 equal parts. It's been refrigerated, so it's a lot easier to cut than if it was still room temp. So when we weighed it, it was 12 ounces. 1 stick of butter is 4 ounces. So if I divide it in 3, I know that I have roughly, each one's roughly a stick of butter. You can see we've got a couple places where there's a little bit of buttermilk that has risen. So if I keep this in the fridge, I'm just going to ignore that. But if I'm going to put it out at room temp, I'll kind of pat it dry a little bit before I put it out to sit. I don't think I salted this batch, so if you want salted butter, you can salt it. If not, you don't have to. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. If I need more butter, to put on like toast or something that's going to be sitting out, I'll salt it. But if I'm just going to keep it in the refrigerator or the freezer just for recipes or whatever, then I'm not going to salt it because it's going to be kept really cold. But if you're wanting butter to keep out at room temp, I would definitely salt it. It'll just keep a lot longer that way. But this is it. It's cold from the fridge and it's still fairly soft. It's so easily spreadable. When it's thawed to room temp, it's super spreadable. Just because it's from raw milk. Obviously, you don't have to use raw heavy cream to make this. You can use just any heavy cream. Even from the store that's not completely heavy cream, has other ingredients, even that you can turn into butter. But we like our raw milk from our cow, and we love the raw butter. It's just got a nice taste to it. I feel like it keeps a good long time. And I know that my kids and myself, that we are getting extra beta carotene and omega-3s from her being grass-fed and getting sunshine and eating grass that's gotten lots of sunshine and not just dry old hay. She has lots of pasture, so that's why this is so yellow. So the cream of the milk, I can actually show you some. Hold on. Ignore my messy fridge. So you can see up here, this is a really sad cream line because she has a calf on her, so she likes to hold back the cream for a calf. But you can see the cream is way more yellow than the skim milk down here. So this is more white. At the bottom, it's almost a little bit blue just from all that cream has left the bottom and is slowly rising up. So this cream line will grow a little bit as it sits, but this is from just a couple hours ago, so it's still setting. But there's lots of beta carotene in there, vitamin A, or precursor of vitamin A, that's up in that cream. That's where it is stored. It's stored in the fat because it's a fat soluble vitamin. So that's why the cream will be more yellowy than the milk. Sorry, I'm a little sick. So that's why the butter is so yellow, because it has so much vitamin A in there. It's really good for us, and it makes me feel a little bit better about eating lots of butter and feeding my kids lots of butter. But it's super yummy and I love it. And it's really not that hard of a recipe. Once you've done it once or twice, you just set it in the KitchenAid or your whatever other appliance you like to use, or just shake it up, and it gets a lot easier with time. But a lot of people say that using like a Ninja or a blender is a lot faster than the KitchenAid. I just feel like I can make a lot more in the KitchenAid than I can in my blender. And I also just really hate washing my blender. So I really just, the KitchenAid bowl I could just put in the dishwasher, but the blender just never gets completely clean. So I feel like I have to like dishwash it, but then scrub it, or scrub it and dishwash it. Anyways, I hate all the cracks and crevices. But that's our method, and this is our yummy butter.